Howdy, y'all. Caleb here. Today we're going to talk about some Galletian Champions and what role they play in a Seraphon army in this upcoming General's Handbook. We've seen some of the General's Handbook teased on Warhammer community, and we've seen basically the entire GHB leaked out there. So it's coming real soon. So it's time to look at what some of the rules are and how it applies to our army. So we'll take a look at the rules, the artifacts, some enhancements, and then what units and kind of what roles they play in this new GHB. So Galletian Champions, they are a new, special unit here that has a new rule, and they are going to be heroes with a wounds characteristic of less than 10 that do not have a mount and are not unique. They gain the Galletian Champion keyword. So you're talking about generally your foot heroes in your army. We haven't seen a lot of those being played in certain factions lately, but it's going to be a big emphasis in this season of Age of Sigmar. So we'll look at the characters that we have available to us in Seraphon and if they have a good role. The key to victory ability here is really interesting. Friendly Galletian champions cannot be picked as the target of attacks made by missile weapons while they're within 1 inch of any friendly battle line units. So this is, I think this rule has been missing in Age of Sigmar for a while. We want to be able to protect our small heroes, our support heroes. And now we're finally given an ability to do that. And so keep them within 1 inch of a battle line unit, and they can't be shot. There's an exception here in a little bit, but 1 inch is close, so make sure you're doing that. This is kind of that range. It's closer than the range of Lookout Sir that we've been used to for a little while. But this is a way to keep our support heroes safe. So I like this. There's been a lot of shooting involved in Age of Sigmar lately, and so this gives us a way to keep those little guys safe from harm. There's some other abilities here, desperate actions. If you're going second, you pick a Galletian champion that can do 2 heroic actions. Pretty nice. Get you a command point and, one of the other heroic actions. There are a couple unique heroic actions. I'm not going to go into these too much because I think it's such a corner case that these will actually line up. Basically, you can have a Galletian champion that if they're already in combat range in the heroic phase, they can use a heroic action to fight. But then that makes them fight last in the combat phase. And then if they have a sworn bodyguard unit, which is part of a battalion, you take a Galletian champion and a unit that can be a sworn bodyguard unit. That can also fight in the hero phase. So you can tag up some stuff here for some extra combat. I don't think this is going to happen very often. Galletian champions generally don't survive into a hero phase in combat range. Now, if that does happen, if you can make some smart pylons, if the opponent makes some bad pylons and draws a hero in, this might happen. But I wouldn't plan any strategy around intentionally getting these small foot heroes into combat and trying to get them to survive to the heroic phase to pull this off. So it'll happen. When it does, it'll feel great, but don't really plan on it. So we do have a focus on these Galletian champions, and I think some of the reasons why we are going to be forced to take them is because of these battle tactics. So we have 8 new battle tactics in the General's Handbook. Well, not 8 new ones. 4 are the same: gaining momentum, eye for an eye, desecrate their lands, and this one's mine. Those are all returning from the previous edition. But we do have these 4 new ones that are coming with Galletian Champion emphasis. And so you do need to put some Galletian Champions in your list to be able to accomplish any of these. Unless you have some good book battle tactics, you're going to need one of these because half of the battle tactics are these Galletian champion ones. Seraphon's battle tactics aren't really that great. Starborn one requires you to summon a bunch of stuff that you're not really wanting to summon at 20 points. And the Coalesced one wants you to run 3 monsters within 6 inches of each other, wholly within enemy territory. This is just generally doesn't happen until the very end of the game, if at all. So we do need to rely on some of these Galletian Champion battle tactics if we're going to score all 5. The first one, a matter of honor, pick one Galletian Champion or Swarm Bodyguard unit on the battlefield. You complete this battle tactic if that unit is destroyed this turn by an attack made by a friendly Galletian Champion or Sworn Bodyguard unit. So you're looking for a champion to kill off something. There's a couple of restrictions there. But this one is a little difficult because most of our Galletian Champions that we have in Seraphon just are not that killy. They don't do a lot of damage. I think that may be similar in most armies. You know, there may be some corner cases where there's some Galletian Champions that can really throw out a punch, but most aren't there for that. Most are there for support roles, for buffing other units, and we see that a lot with Seraphon as well. Maybe when we get a new book, we'll see some Saurus heroes that can stand and fight. But right now, we really don't have any that will reliably kill a unit. So unless you've got something on like 1 health, this is going to be difficult to do. I think there are some cases where you might pick this one, and it would be something like a Salon, who can be a Galletian Champion, and you could do Comet's Call onto a unit that has 1 health left. You know, a model that has 1 health left, and you can destroy it that way. If you can do that reliably, then maybe you can pick this one to grab that battle tactic. But it's going to be a tough one. Next one is Lead the Assault. You complete this battle tactic if at least 2 objectives you control are in enemy territory and are each contested by a friendly Galletian Champion. This is a rough one because not only do you need to control 2 objectives with Galletian Champions, they have to be in enemy territory. So that's a lot to ask for, especially with we have a lower number of objective counts in most of these battle plans, and so this one's difficult. I think you're looking at this in like turn 5. You've tabled the opponent. Now you're moving your Galletian Champions into their territory to grab those objectives. That's kind of where I'm looking at this one. Unless they've deployed very poorly and you can get onto them turn 1, you're generally not having your little support heroes in their territory controlling their objectives very early in the game. Next one is United Offense. Pick 1 objective controlled by your opponent. You complete this battle tactic if you control that objective and 2 or more friendly Galletian Champions are contesting that objective at the end of this turn. So you have to take an objective away from your opponent, and you need 2 Galletian Champions on it. I think this one's easier, not super easy, but if you're sending in your forces, kind of like it calls here, United Offense, you're sending in a bunch of forces onto an objective and getting 2 support heroes on it, you can get this one. This one, I think, will come as a natural flow of the game as you're pushing forward. It doesn't say the objective has to be anywhere specific. So if you're going second in turn 1, they've taken an objective, maybe set this up to where you can push onto that objective, take it back, and put your Galletian Champions on it. Not the most difficult one. This one should be achievable in a game, as long as your Galletian Champions don't get killed. The last one here is Cunning Maneuver. Pick 1 friendly Galletian Champion on the battlefield that is more than 3 inches from all enemy units, so they're not in combat when you're picking this in the hero phase. You complete this battle tactic if, at the end of the turn, that Galletian Champion is more than 3 inches from all enemy units and is contesting an objective you control that is wholly outside your territory. So this one is the turn 1, the top of turn 1, you're taking first turn, battle tactic. Get a Galletian Champion onto an objective that's not in your territory and control it. This one is very easy, but it does require that Galletian Champion, and it does require some mobility. And so as I'm looking at these Galletian Champions that we have options to, what can I get across the board? What can I get into the middle of the board, onto the objective that I need to, and control that objective? This isn't going to be a slow foot slogging guy. I've got to get him over there quick onto the objective and be able to take it, or at least control it that turn. So I'm looking for teleports. That kind of thing works well. Something fast, um, something that can run quickly, get over there to it, and capture that one. So um, these do, all four of these require some mobility. To be honest, I mean, a lot of these, none of these are really going to be in your territory. You either need to kill something or get somewhere with these Galletian Champions. So you can't really sit back on many of these with your support heroes and just let them sit behind your units. You're going to have to be pushing them forward some. So keep that in mind as we're looking at these different units. Some of the interesting changes we have here are artifacts of power. These can only be taken by a Galletian champion. I wish these had opened up for everybody. That probably would have been too broken. Galletian champions can only take these. We do end up in Seraphon. We do end up in a little bit of a unique case here, as our sub-factions still lock us into artifacts. And so the only way you're going to get these is if you're taking a battalion that gives you an extra artifact. So you're getting an extra enhancement, you're choosing an artifact, and then you can get one of these in addition to your sub-faction artifact. I would imagine that will change, as most books have not locked you into a specific artifact with their sub-factions, but right now we're still stuck with our sub-faction artifacts. But I think these have a role, and they're good, and they might be worth, raising your drops on your list building to get an extra artifact here. The first one, Tusk Helm. After the bearer makes a charge move, you can pick one enemy unit within 1 inch of the bearer. If you do so, roll a number of dice equal to the unmodified charge roll for that charge move. For each 4-up, the target suffers 1 mortal wound. If the bearer already has an ability with an effect that triggers after they make a charge move, you must pick which effect applies. You can't use both. So we're doing some mortal wounds on the charge to 1 unit. In general, you're looking at an average charge, and then you have to roll 4-ups on those dice. You're looking at probably about 4 mortal wounds. Nothing to really write home about, but interestingly enough, as I'm going through all the heroes that we have that we can put into Galletian Champions, doing 4 mortal wounds is basically more damage than any of our Galletian champions can actually do in combat. I think the most I could get out of one was like 3.9 or something like that. And, without any buffs and whatnot, but just War Scroll. So it's not insignificant. It does do quite a bit, not quite a bit of damage. It does some damage, and it's mortal. So, it is good. It's a good ability there. I was trying to look through some stuff, and I noticed that this isn't a unmodified charge roll. So whatever your unmodified charge roll is, you roll that number of dice and 4-ups. But we have a unique ability with the Skink Starseer, where you roll 3 dice for a charge for whatever unit he designates. And so let's say you put this on a Skink Starseer. Be a little crazy that the Skink Starseer, little guy in a chair, can crash into the foe with the force of the mightiest of charging beasts. But you roll 3 dice on his charge, and then you can roll 4-ups on whatever that charge is. So, in a perfect world, you roll 18 on the charge. Obviously, that's not going to happen. And you could do about 9 mortal wounds. In general, really what you'd be adding is an extra like 2 mortal wounds maybe. But it could be for some little fun tech. You could also designate his 3d6 charge onto a different hero if you wanted to. So if you wanted to charge in something that's a little bit more tough, you could. And you might have some fun there. The next one is Nightflyer Cloak. During deployment, instead of setting up the bearer on the battlefield, you can place them to one side and say that they are set up in ambush as a reserve unit. At the end of your movement phase, you can set up the bearer on the battlefield within 1 inch of a friendly battle line unit and more than 9 inches from all enemy units. So not a true reserve deep strike ambushing unit, because they do have to come in within 1 inch of battle line, but it does give a little bit of mobility for something that might not have that mobility otherwise. So you probably wouldn't use this too often in Starborn side, because you have so much mobility, teleports there, and already got a bunch of stuff set up in reserve, and like Dracothian's Tail. But maybe on the Coalesce side, if you need something that's set up off the board so it doesn't get shot turn 1, you could bring this artifact in, so you could kind of get in this Galletian champion where you need him to go. The next one is Griffeather Charm. The bearer has a ward of a 5-up. It's not a bad artifact there. The 5-up ward is good, especially if it's already on a tough unit. You might add that to like some of the Saurus heroes, which already have a 3-up save and a healthy number of wounds. Most of them have 7. And in Coalesce, it'd be -1 damage. So it makes those Galletian Champions about as tough as you can be. 3-up save, 5-up ward with -1 damage. I mean, that's about as tough as I think any Galletian Champions are going to be in this edition. So Saurus heroes with that would be a good pick if you're looking for something to survive as much as possible. The unique enhancements, I think this is where your choices are really going to come down to the wire on what your strategy wants to be with your Galletian champion. So you can always take one aspect of the champion enhancement for your army. So you can take more if you build battalions to get you extra enhancements, but you always get one. You do have to give it to a Galletian champion. And these are very interesting. The first one here is once per battle, it's Tunnel Master. Once per battle, instead of picking this Galletian champion to make a normal move, you can remove it from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 9 inches from all enemy units. This is very good for, I think, for the Coalesce side of the army. So as I'm looking at these Saurus heroes that are very slow, Tunnel Master is very appealing as their aspect of the champion because I can now get them anywhere on the board that I want to. Outside of 9 inches, they get a free teleport, basically. So that is very interesting. This makes for a great turn 1 grabbing that battle tactic where you just need to capture an objective with your Galletian champion, teleport it over to the side objective, and you've got that battle tactic easy with this Tunnel Master. Helps you get out of trouble. You can, if you need to, you can take this Tunnel Master and deploy it backboard so it's safe from being shot turn 1, and then move it wherever you need to engage the battle. You can save this for later in the game if you're trying to go for 2 objectives on their side of the board. You've cleared out 1, teleport this guy over there and help out with that battle tactic. So Tunnel Master is one that I'm really liking, especially as I play Coalesced. And I'm always hungry for extra mobility. Tunnel Master is very intriguing. The next one is Fueled by Gurish Rage. Once per battle, before you allocate a wound or mortal wound to this Galletian champion, and that wound or mortal wound would cause it to be slain, you can roll a dice on a 3-up. That wound or mortal wound is negated. You can heal up to D3 wounds allocated to it, and any wounds that currently remain to be allocated to it are negated. So this is a pretty interesting little ability here. So it's kind of like our incandescent Retresses, where you get to roll a dice and heal and negate wounds there from on a model. So if you really want to keep a weaker Galletian champion maybe alive, this is one way to do it. It is a dice roll, so it's not guaranteed to happen, but, a Skink Priest or a Skink Star Priest that's always getting shot and killed, this is one way to help keep them alive after they've taken those wounds. You could also double up if you're just trying to add an absolute tank of a Saurus Galletian champion. Give them that 5-up ward. Give them this Fueled by Gurish Rage, so that if they do get through all your defenses, then maybe you can still bring it back and heal it. So, not too shabby there. One thing I hadn't thought about, I wonder if this pairs with Incandescent Retresses. I'd have to look at the wording on that. Let me know in the comments below. Does Fueled by Gurish Rage, how does that interact with Incandescent Retresses? I have to look at that. Next one, Stubborn as a Rhinox. This Galletian champion counts as 10 models for the purpose of contesting objectives while there are no enemy Galletian champions contesting the same objective. This is this is cool because now, that little Skink Priest counts as 10 models. Your Saurus guy that you've given a 5-up ward to is kind of hard to kill, can't be shot, gets in there, counts as 10 models. This is an interesting one because it's going to help you capture objectives in those times where You need to. For the battle tactics, there's also battle plans that require you to capture with champions, or you get more points with champions. So this is very useful. You're almost talking. It's not quite obsec, but it's getting there. We're getting there. Leadership of the Alpha. This one, I think you'll see a lot. Once per battle, this Galletian champion can issue one of the following commands up to 3 times in the same phase: rally, all-out attack, all-out defense, or redeploy. If it does so, no command point is spent the second and third times this Galletian champion issues that command in that phase. Ooh, this is interesting. You know what? I mean, obviously this is going to be good for any army, but I'm loving this for Starborn. Think Fangs of Sotek, where you want to issue, all-out attack to your big unit of skinks, your 2 units of salamanders. You can do that here. You can get all-out attack on your entire army that you're going into combat or shooting and then combat with. Well, you can only do it once, so you can either do it in shooting or combat. So you line this up right, and you're getting +1 to hit on all your skinks and all your salamanders, and so that could be very, very juicy. In Coalesced, I like this for that, all-out defense. If you've gotten into a big scrum and you're relying on your scaly skin to help save you, throwing all-out defense on 3 units in that big melee fight could help save your bacon there. So I think you're gonna see all 4 of these. To be honest, I think all 4 of them have a use and a purpose, and that's pretty interesting. I like it when these things make it for a difficult choice, and you can kind of lean into one or the other depending on how you're gonna build your army. All right, so let's take a look at some of our Galletian champions, and maybe if they're going to make our list or not. The first one is a Slaane's Starmaster. Now, this is an easy one because this is going to be in just about every list we have. A Slaane's Starmaster makes just about every list. The only time you wouldn't take him is if you're taking Croak. Now, points here say 285. It's gone up in the latest points adjustments. That goes up to 290. They keep increasing the Slaane Starmaster's points cost, and it's getting. I mean, that's a lot for 7 wounds on a 4-up save, but there's ways to negate that with Guard, with the Eternity Warden, which you might take now. But the Slaane offers a lot, and I think that's what makes its points what it is. It's what makes us take them into each army list. Not going to do anything in melee. Don't put this Slaane in melee. But what it does is a support character is very good. Now we have a better way to keep it from being shot with the Galletian Champion new rules. So that should help us keep our Slaane alive for longer. It's not going to fulfill as many of the battle tactics and, objective specific things, but it can do a few of those if you need it to. But I think the thing that the Slaane benefits from the most is not being able to be shot as long as it's within an inch of battle line. So you're going to have it around your Guard, or if not a Guard, put a Stegodon beside it. And it can't be shot then if it's within an inch of a Stegodon. So some interesting play there. Slaane, a great pick. That's going to be one of our Galletian veterans, I think. I think this gives it a little bit of a, as you're trying to figure out, do I want to take Croak or do I want to take a Slaane? This gives a little bit more weight to the Slaane since it can be a Galletian champion. Another unit we see all the time is the Saurus Astrolith Bear. This is a standard in a lot of lists because of what it does. As we're looking at Galletian veterans, you don't want to take a Galletian veteran just to take one. It needs to do something, right? Like, it needs to be able to perform these battle tactics. It needs to be able to capture objectives when called on. But it also needs to serve a role in the army. We don't want to just throw points away at heroes. And so the Slaane and the Astrolith Bear fulfill that role. They are a Galletian champion, but they also fulfill a role in the army. And so that's important. It makes it worth its points when you're looking at list building for this General's Handbook. The points are 160 for the Saurus Astrolith Bear. It does have a worse save and less wounds than the other Saurus heroes for some reason. But it makes up for that in support here. It is a totem, so you do get longer range on command points. But really, it's there for the extra +1 to casting for wizards and extra range on spells. So it does have that extra 6-inch range on spells, which is vital for some of our stuff. But very good for support of our wizards. It also does have a revivifying energies where it gives a 6-up ward save to everything within wholly within 12. Very good to help keep our stuff alive. So Saurus Astrolith Bear will still end up being in a lot of our lists as another Galletian champion. Some of the other Saurus heroes, I think I'm struggling with them right now. I want to play them because of this Galletian champion rules. I think they struggle with me to serve a purpose. They're going to be a Galletian champion. They can be fairly tough to kill, but they almost do no damage in melee. Like the Saurus Eternity Warden isn't horrible in melee, but it's just a foot hero that's going to do like 2 to 3 damage once you roll everything out. It's just not going to do much damage. It does serve a secondary role, and then it can take some wounds from a Slaawn when you allocate them to them. So it can take some wounds that way. Maybe there's a play here where you can take this, let it soak up some wounds turn 1 if Slaawn takes any damage. Use Tunnel Master to send the Eternity Warden off on his own to go capture objectives. It is 130 points. It shows 125 here. These haven't been updated yet, but it is going to be 130 points. So it's not insignificant cost, but it's not bad for 3-up save, 7 wounds, -1 damage in Coalesced. And you can give it a 5-up ward if you want to. So a fairly tough hero that serves a small purpose in protecting a Slaawn. Its command ability is almost useless, just +1 to hit. You can get that a whole bunch of different ways. Oh, and it only works on guard, so for whatever that works. You're almost never going to use that. I hope in the new Battle Tome that Eternity Warden gets changed, because, man, I love that model. It's such a great model. Even though it's fine cast, I still love that model. It's a lot of fun. Another Saurus hero, the Saurus Sunblood. This one, I think, does the most damage of our Galletian champions. I think so. If you're looking for something to do damage, I guess it would be the Sunblood. It's still fairly cheap. It is at 130 points. It's 3-up save, 7 wounds, can -1 damage in Coalesce, so it can be fairly tough. But still, I think it's doing like 3.9, almost 4 damage on average. You do get some exploding hits on 6s, and you can do mortal wounds on the wound rolls of 6. There's just not quite enough attacks to really make that feel real good. It does have a command ability for +1 to wound for Saurus units. So if you're running like Knights, this could be a good ability to where you could kind of add on to that damage the Knights are doing. So not a bad unit. At 130, it has a role at least, especially with this Galletian champion. I think this is of all the Saurus ones, other than the Astrolith, I think you'll probably see the Sunblood the most. One you probably won't see much is the Saurus Old Blood. This is the on-foot version of the guy that rides the Carnosaur, and does the same thing, exploding hits on 6s for its cell site weapon, but it's not enough to make a difference. 3-up save, 7 wounds, also good. It stays at 120, so it's the cheaper of the Saurus heroes, but it's got a ton of profiles there. You only get to pick one of those, and then the jaws, and it doesn't do much damage. So I mean, I guess I would probably take the Maul just to try to fish for the extra D3, turning those into 3s. The Great Blade is probably more reliable, but man, just not a very great melee hero. But if you're hurting on points, you could take that and roll with him. Again, a command ability, just +1 to hit, not too useful. Our skink units, here's the thing with the skinks. They have been going up so much in price lately, the skink heroes, that they kind of became a reliability at their points cost. I mean, you still have to do it because that's how you still have to take these because our heroes is what makes our war scrolls good. So you still had to take them, but they got shot so easily. In Starborn specifically, you have to take these guys. So you're going to end up with a Skink Priest in your list, especially if you're in Starborn. They are going to be in your list. In a lot of Thunder Lizard lists, if you have the points, you're going to put one in there. But increasingly, at 120 points, they haven't been making my list. They're just too weak to fit in. Now with the new abilities where they can be protected from being shot, it does make them more interesting. It is going to force me to want to include them in my list. The Skink Priest, obviously, you never want this guy in melee because look at his melee weapon, absolutely ridiculous. 1 attack, 4s and 4s, -101 damage, just ridiculous. But it's purely a support piece. You're there for the Stone Star staff abilities to give it all these buffs. And the Herald of the Old One, which is just a +1 to hit that lasts from hero to hero phase. And so great abilities, but very weak unit. But now you can kind of protect them in Starborn. I feel like Starborn is going to be especially like Fangs of Sotek or both of them. Fangs of Sotek, Dracothian Tails. You're going to put a lot of these, as many units as you can, 3. That's all you can do, put into them. Into the Galletian Sharpshooter Battalion. That battalion lets you shoot heroes, the Galletian Champions, that are normally hidden and unavailable to be targeted in shooting. So I think a lot of these lists, you're going to go hard after those Galletian Champions and hope that they don't have sharpshooters themselves that can outrange you. Not a lot of stuff can outrange like a Fangs of Sotek or Dracothian's Tail list, but it can happen. So Skink Priest is still going to be used. I mean, it's still going to be in there. It's definitely a support piece. You don't want it in melee. Same for the Star Priest. You see this one's in Knight lists, like Saurus Knight lists, but you see them in Starborn lists. And so you're still going to take it. It's still there to get the mortal wounds onto your units so they can proc mortal wounds. And the spell is just amazing as well, along with Hand of Glory. But again, don't want to be in combat. This one's points are going up to 140. It's just so expensive now for a 5-up save, 5 wound hero that's going to get killed so easy. It is nice being able to protect them, though, as a Galletian champion. So they should survive longer against a lot of lists. But I don't think Galletian Champions changes whether you take a Star Priest. You're taking them for its abilities, and those are great abilities. And so Galletian Champions being added to them is just a bonus. Same with Skink Starseer. Again, all the Skink heroes are just fantastic. And so you take these because of what they do, not because of being a Galletian champion. Almost the exact opposite of the Saurus heroes. The Saurus heroes you're taking because they are Galletian champions. Skink heroes you're taking because of their abilities. So all the Skink heroes are still usable, still great, and are protected a little bit more because of the Galletian champion keywords. So Starseer is fantastic. So that's all the Seraphon ones. Those are all the Seraphon Galletian Champions. Skinks are, I think, in a good position other than all the points going up. But you're still going to have all those heroes in it. I don't think it changes your list building, Galletian Champions. You're probably going to be at a 4-drop. You're going to do a battle regiment and then 3 units in sharpshooters. On the Coalesce side, you're probably either looking at extremely low drop or extremely high drop. You don't care too much about those battalions. Sharpshooters doesn't help you too much unless you're running a skink horde, but you're not running 3 units of skinks. Oh gosh, coalesce. What do you even put into the sharpshooter battalion if you wanted to? You have to have 3 units. I don't know. I don't know. You would. Uh, so I think you're relying on that one just to keep your champions alive based on how tough they are and positioning well. I think there is a couple of units in our allies that are interesting. So we do have 2 allies that we have access to, Stormcast and Cities of Sigmar. And so Stormcast, we'll look at that first. Stormcast has a ton of heroes, and a ton of them qualify for Galletian Champions. And so if I'm taking an ally, I want something that my army doesn't have. So if I'm taking one into Starborn, I probably want a hero that's tougher than what I have access to. And I don't know that there's a whole lot that I would take in Starborn as an ally. I might take like a battle mage to pop that onto a unit of salamanders to make sure they're making their charge. You could kind of use the battle mage on different things. Battle mage costs about, I think it's about 100 points right now, and can give you +2 to your charge. So that's the one you'd be using. But as I'm looking at Fangs, I don't know that I would be taking a whole lot of allies. When I'm looking at Coalesce has one big weakness, and it's that mobility. And so one of the things that I think a allied unit that goes really well into that, and it would work in Fangs of Sotek too, is this Knight Zephyros. Now it's listed here at 120. It just got a points drop. It's only 100 points. And that 100-point hero has a 3-up save. Fantastic for these little heroes. 5 wounds. What it does, though, is its damage is okay. It's about the same as all of the Saurus guys. So, I mean, it does okay damage. It does have a missile weapon, 12-inch range. 3s and 3s, -1 rend 1 damage. Nothing to write home about. We can do some plink damage. Same with the axes, 6 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 rend 1 damage. You see that profile on some of the Saurus guys. But it does have 2 unique abilities here. Tireless Hunter, it can run and still shoot later in the turn. Notice it doesn't say charge, unfortunately. But the one that I would really care about is this Wind Rider. Instead of picking this unit to make a normal move or retreat, you can say that it will ride the winds etheric. If you do so, remove this unit from the battlefield and set it up again on the battlefield more than 1 inch from all terrain features and objectives, and more than 9 inches from any enemy units. So here we have a free teleport on its War Scroll. That's fantastic for 100 points for a hero that can be a Galletian champion, because you want that mobility. So think about those battle tactics where you have, you need to have 2 Galletian champions on either one objective or 2 Galletian champions on 2 different objectives. So let's put one Galletian champion. Let's say we're doing this in Fangs of Sotek. I can teleport one Galletian champion to an objective, and then I can use this guy's free Wind Rider ability to get on to that same objective or another one. If I'm in Coalesced, I can take a Saurus hero, a tough Saurus hero with Tunnel Runner or Tunnel Hunter. What was it called? The Tunnel Hunter or something. Tunnel Master. I can take a tough Saurus hero with Tunnel Master, so it can get a teleport, and then I can teleport this Knight Zephyros. So I'm really liking this as an ability for only 100 points. That's literally cheaper than every other hero we have that can be a Galletian champion. So this is a very cheap Galletian champion that has an incredible ability here. Won't do a ton of damage. That's not what he's there for, but great mobility. So I'm liking the Knight Zephyros. Another one that I like is the Knight Incanter. You've seen the Knight Incanter go into a ton of lists in the past, just for its own wizard abilities. It's I think it's gone down to 120 points now in the new points costs. It is a wizard. It can unbind 1 spell, but it does have that Void Storm Scroll, so you can automatically unbind 1 spell per game. So this is very good ability for stopping that incredibly important spell the enemy might have. Are they going to use this new Realm spell ability that blows up an objective and do D6 mortals to everything in range of that objective, use this Voidstorm Scroll. Purple Sun, somebody pulling out Purple Sun, use this one. So has this very unique ability here with this Voidstorm Scroll. Man, I can't say that word. So Knight Incanter is still good, 120 points. That's vying with the Old Blood, which does nothing. And this one brings some utility. Also has a very good War Scroll spell, which sends out an aura of -1 to run and charge for enemies. Just fantastic War Scroll spell. So Knight Incanter, still a great ally choice. Another one you might pick up from Stormcast is the Knight Vexillor. You could do it one of two ways. I think it's still 120. I don't think it's point change. 3 up save, 6 wounds, so a good profile there for Galletian Champion. They have you would either pick a Meteoric Standard, which will let you do mortal wounds to enemies within 6 of that point, which is up to 24 inches away, and they suffer D3 mortal wounds. So this can actually help you with the, battle tactic, which you could, plink off the last wounds on a unit and kill that unit, or just help you with kind of pile on with Comet's Call. So not a bad Galletian Champion veteran there with that Meteoric Standard. If you wanted to, the Pendant of the Stormbringer lets you teleport once per game. I would see no reason to do that on this hero. You might as well take the Knight whatever the other one we talked about, Knight Zephyros instead of that, so it could do it every time. But it does allow you to do that. This hero actually hits fairly good. 4 attacks, 3s and 3s, -1 run, 2 damage. That's better than any of our Saurus heroes. So not great, but not bad. One more ally, and this one is kind of goofy, but a Cogsmith. You're thinking, what in the world would you want a Cogsmith for? Its abilities are terrible. Don't even look at the abilities. What it is, though, it just went down another 10 points. This is a Galletian Champion that is 60 points. That's got to be the cheapest hero in the game, and it's a Galletian veteran. So if you're building a list and you've got 60 points left over and you're wishing you had a Galletian Champion to throw in the list just to help score some of these things, maybe the Cogsmith is up your alley. It's slow, terrible save, only 5 wounds, not really going to do a whole lot of damage, but it's only 60 points. So, hey, might be worth it. All right, this video's hopefully you got something out of this one. Special champions, Galletian veterans. Man, this was 45 minutes. Sorry, guys. Just got on a roll. Wanted to keep talking. Let me know below in the comments what Galletian Champions are you taking? Did I miss anything? Is there a hero in Seraphon that I need to keep my eye on for our Galletian Champions? I think we're kind of locked in with Fangs of Sotek. I don't see Fangs of Sotek and Dracothian's Tail changing all that much, to be honest, other than putting our units into sharpshooters. I think the real question comes down on the Coalesce side, where do you lean into the Skink, or do you try out some Saurus heroes here? I think I'm going to try some Saurus heroes. I don't know how well it's going to do, but it's time for my Sunblood and maybe even the Eternity Warden to see the table. We'll see how they do. All right, let me know below in the comments, guys, your thoughts on Galletian Champions, and we'll see you next time.